He built his empire with code, vision, and a heart that trusted the wrong woman. But when betrayal struck from the one he called wife, he didn't crumble. He made a choice, one that would change everything. Have you ever discovered the person you love isn't who they claim to be? Not just lies, but theft, deception, and a secret that could shatter your soul? When Adrian Ross, tech billionaire and reclusive genius, caught his wife in a web of lies, he didn't scream. He walked away, straight into an arrangement that was never meant to lead to love. She was quiet, untouched by luxury, and chosen for convenience. But beneath her silence was a truth no one expected. She was a virgin, and she was carrying his children. Now tell me, when a heart once broken starts beating again, would you trust it? As we begin, I would like to know where in the world you are watching from. Hit the subscribe button and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on beautiful stories as this you're about to watch. Now let's begin. The night air bit sharply across Sofia Delgado's bare shoulders as she stood alone on the balcony of her high-rise. The glow of Crescent City twinkled beneath her like a lie dressed in gold. Just days ago, that very balcony had been her favorite place, where whispered dreams became shared laughter, where promises felt like truth. Now, it was the stage of her deepest heartbreak. Julian had stood beside her here, spoken words meant to comfort, words that turned out to be nothing more than veils for betrayal. It wasn't just infidelity, it was corruption, theft, manipulation, and the worst part? He'd done it all with a smile. She found the photo first, a careless slip tucked beneath a stack of company paperwork. Then, the unfamiliar scent clinging to his coat. And then, the confrontation. His defense crumbled quickly, more from guilt than denial. He'd stolen company funds to bribe one of Crescent City's underground power players, Lucio Vasari, a man no one crossed and walked away unscathed. Julian had traded Sofia's trust for protection from the city's wolves, and as his lies collapsed, Sofia felt her own foundation crack. She didn't scream. She didn't cry. She simply stood there, the pain crystallizing into resolve. When the knock came, she expected maybe a neighbor. Instead, it was her father, Carlos Delgado, his face lined with age and unspoken truths. "Sofia," he said gently, stepping in with careful hesitation. "You don't have to go through this alone." She turned from the city's glare. "You knew about him, didn't you?" Her voice didn't shake. It cut. Carlos sighed, lowering his gaze. "I knew what Julian was tangled in. I thought I could contain it, protect you from it. I was wrong." The confession sliced deeper than she anticipated. "So, I was just leverage," she said quietly. "Just another pawn in your business war." Carlos didn't argue, didn't deny. He only stepped forward and placed a hand on her shoulder. "I've failed you," he said with quiet pain. "But there's a way forward, one I believe gives us a fighting chance." Sofia didn't flinch. "I'm listening." The Ross building loomed like a glass temple in the heart of Crescent City. Steel, stone, and ambition. Its corridors echoed with power, its boardroom colder than its walls. Sofia walked in wearing a slate-gray pantsuit, hair pinned back, face unreadable. She was here to negotiate. Her future. At the head of the room stood Michael Ross, billionaire, strategist, reformer, and now, possibly, her husband. Their handshake was professional, brief, charged. Michael had a reputation, detached, calculating, effective. But the moment his eyes locked with Sofia's, something shifted. Curiosity flickered behind his usual reserve. Carlos cleared his throat and began the presentation, detailing the Vasari threat, the company's vulnerable position, and the proposed alliance. Every sentence dripped with consequence. Sofia listened. She already knew the stakes. When Carlos finished, Michael took over. His voice was smooth but direct. "So this marriage, it's less a vow and more an agreement. Do you understand that, Miss Delgado?" Sofia met his gaze without blinking. "Perfectly." He nodded and pushed a contract forward. "It outlines a union in 7 days. Ownership, full partnership, appearances maintained." Sofia read the lines quickly. No hidden clauses, just bold terms. She signed. Their fingers brushed as she returned the pen. Neither moved. Something unspoken passed between them. Michael stood. "You'll move into the guest wing of my home. I expect discretion and transparency." "I expect the same," she replied. He nodded once. Sofia turned, her heels clicking against the floor as she left. Michael watched her go. his expression unreadable. But in that fleeting second before the door closed behind her, he smiled. Rain tapped gently against the city's windows. Inside a private courthouse chamber, Sophia stood across from Michael in a silver dress that clung like determination. He wore a navy suit, collar crisp, tie absent. They exchanged formal words, signed documents, and slipped on rings made of quiet resolve. The judge pronounced them married. No kiss, no applause, just an unspoken promise, survival. Sophia woke before dawn. Her heart thudded beneath the blanket, nerves tight like piano wire. She turned to find Michael still asleep beside her, his breathing slow, his expression softer. He didn't look like a ruthless CEO in sleep. He looked like a man who had lost things too. Sophia dressed silently and walked into the kitchen. The Delgado Estates kitchen was massive, impersonal, but the coffee she made was familiar, grounding. Michael entered, sleeves rolled, hair tousled. He poured himself a cup and leaned beside her on the counter. "No regrets yet?" he asked, breaking the silence. Sophia met his eyes. "Too early to say." Michael chuckled softly. "Fair." They sat at the breakfast table, the clinking of silverware the only sound, until Sophia set down her fork. "This marriage," she began, "was built on necessity. But I don't want it to become something we resent." Michael looked thoughtful. "Then let's give it structure, boundaries, honesty." She nodded. "And space." "Agreed," he said, "except on matters of protection. If you're in danger, I won't keep my distance." Sophia looked away quickly. That one sentence landed too deep. Outside, the morning fog was lifting, and somewhere between the silence, something fragile stirred. "Hello, my beautiful family. Would you agree to marry someone for protection or business if it meant saving your family's legacy? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if this story's got you hooked, hit that like button, share with someone who believes in love born from pain, and subscribe for more stories that challenge the heart. Now, let's continue. The first week of marriage between Sophia Delgado and Michael Ross passed not in celebration, but in quiet coordination. Though the papers were signed and public statements issued, their connection remained unspoken. Their nights were silent, their meals civil, their words measured. But everything was shifting, subtly, unmistakably. Michael noticed the way Sophia stood by the window late at night, tracing the skyline with her eyes as if looking for answers in the glass and lights. Sophia noticed how Michael's hands always tightened around his coffee mug when news of Crescent City's financial unrest came on screen. Neither spoke of fear, but both felt it. On a crisp Tuesday morning, Sophia sat across from Michael in a dining space large enough to host dignitaries. Between them, a modest breakfast of eggs and toast rested untouched. Michael cleared his throat. "I've been reviewing the joint reports from both companies. The Vasari situation is pressing faster than expected." Sophia set down her fork. "So, what do we do?" He didn't blink. "We speed up negotiations, and we present the image of unity, not just on paper." Sophia narrowed her eyes. "Meaning?" He leaned back slightly. "Public appearances, interviews, perhaps even attending the Westbridge Gala together." The mention of the city's largest social event made Sophia pause. It was less a party and more a political chessboard. Every power player would be there. "I'll consider it," she said finally. Michael smiled faintly. "Thank you." Sophia stood before the full-length mirror, wrapped in a silk robe. Her mind wandered as she traced the ring on her finger. This alliance had felt cold at first, a move on the corporate battlefield. But lately, Michael's small gestures lingered. A coat draped over her shoulders without words. His voice, low and warm, asking if she'd eaten. His silence beside her in the garden, comforting instead of awkward. She turned as a knock echoed on her door. Michael stood outside, holding a tablet. "I thought you'd want to see the finalized Vasari asset map," he said. Sophia nodded, stepped aside. He entered. They stood beside each other at her desk, reviewing the document. "Lucio controls more than we realized," Sophia murmured. "Even our shipping channels." Michael's brow furrowed. "Then we find the cracks in his control. Every empire has them." She turned to him. "You're not what I expected." He smiled slightly. "Neither are you." For a moment, the air between them thickened. She could smell the faint cologne on his collar, feel the heat from his skin. Michael didn't move, but Sophia did. She reached out, gently touching his hand on the desk. It wasn't romantic. Not yet. It was trust. Fragile and earned. The grand ballroom of the Westbridge Hotel shimmered with chandeliers and politics. Sophia, in an emerald green evening gown, turned heads the moment she entered on Michael's arm. Cameras flashed. Reporters whispered. And Michael looked at her like she was the only person in the room. He leaned in. "You wear power well." She smirked. "I've had practice." They danced once. Only once. But it was enough to ignite murmurs among Crescent City's elite. Later, as they stood beside the marble fountain, Sophia whispered, "Why me?" Michael didn't answer immediately. He stared into the rippling water. "Because when everything else fell apart—" "You didn't," he said finally. Sophia's breath caught. And then, in front of the cameras, under the bright lights, Michael kissed her, softly, deliberately. It wasn't for show. It was a question, one she didn't yet have an answer for. Back at the estate, Sophia changed into her nightwear and sat at her vanity. A soft knock. She opened the door to find Michael again. No tablet this time. No briefcase. Just him. He stepped inside slowly. "I didn't come to pressure you," he said. "I just wanted you to know. I meant that kiss." Sophia looked at him. For the first time, she didn't see the CEO. She saw the man. "I know," she said. And then, her voice trembling slightly, "Would you stay? Just for a while?" He stepped closer, brushed his thumb across her cheek. "If that's what you want." It was. He didn't undress. He didn't touch her beyond the comfort of his hand in hers. They lay on top of the covers, fully clothed, the silence between them warmer than any conversation had been. That night, they slept, not as strangers, but not yet as lovers. Sophia woke before Michael. She turned carefully to look at him. His features, always so composed, were soft in sleep. His brow relaxed, his lips slightly parted. She watched the slow rise and fall of his chest. Something flickered in her chest. Something dangerous, not fear. Hope. She slid out of bed and walked to the window. The morning light touched her face. She took a slow breath. Behind her, Michael stirred. "Morning," he murmured, voice gravelly. Sophia turned to face him. "Morning," she replied, smiling gently. They were no longer acting. The lines had begun to blur. 3 weeks into their union, Sophia and Michael no longer needed to pretend. Their rhythm had changed. They ate together, walked the halls together, sat beside each other in meetings and whispered observations only they could understand. The cold alliance had thawed into something warmer, more fragile, more dangerous. At night, the silence wasn't heavy anymore. It felt full, like a breath waiting to be released. And with each passing day, the glances grew longer, the conversations deeper, and the space between them smaller. The winter sun dipped low over the rose bushes, casting long golden light through leafless branches. Sophia knelt among the soil, bare fingers brushing away dead petals. Michael approached quietly, sleeves rolled, tie discarded. "You garden now?" he asked, stopping just short of her. Sophia smiled faintly. "Sometimes things bloom better when they're cut back." He knelt beside her. "You sound like my old therapist." She chuckled. Then he was probably right. Michael watched her closely. The sunlight clung to her skin, lighting up her features in a way he'd never noticed before. Or perhaps he had. He just hadn't allowed himself to look. "You're not afraid anymore," he said suddenly. Sophia's fingers stilled. "No. I've already lived through the worst of it." Their eyes met. Michael reached over, gently brushing dirt from her cheek. His hand lingered longer than necessary. Sophia didn't pull away. He leaned in, slow, deliberate. Their lips touched with quiet reverence, not hunger. It was not a conquest. It was surrender. The door closed behind them without a word. Michael pressed Sophia gently against the wall, hands on either side of her, forehead resting against hers. "Tell me to stop," he whispered. She shook her head slowly. "Then I won't." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and she melted into him. Fingers tangled in his shirt. Her pulse raced beneath his touch. He lifted her easily, carrying her to the bed. The covers were cool. Their bodies were warm. Michael peeled away each layer of fabric like a secret. He traced every line of her skin with reverence, like someone reading verses in a forgotten language. Sophia's breath caught when he touched her lower abdomen, his fingers hesitating. "You're shaking," he said softly. "I've never," she whispered, voice almost lost to the quiet. Michael froze. He looked at her, really looked. "You've never?" Sophia turned her face to the side, embarrassed. Michael pressed a kiss to her shoulder. "Then we do this your way." He shifted, letting her guide him. Every movement was gentle, every breath shared. When their bodies joined, it was slow and deliberate, a rhythm of trust, not urgency. Sophia gasped softly as he filled her for the first time. Pain and pleasure mingled. Tears welled in her eyes, not from hurt, but from how deeply she felt him. Michael moved with patience, with awe, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever touched. Their hands stayed clasped. Their eyes never broke. And when Sophia cried out his name, it wasn't from pleasure alone, it was release. Afterward, they didn't speak. They lay tangled together, heartbeats still echoing. Michael rested his hand over her belly. "You're incredible," he whispered. Sophia closed her eyes, held against the thrum of his voice. "So are you." The clinic was private, discreet, and far from the city's chaos. Sophia sat nervously beside Michael, her hands clasped tight. Dr. Helene entered with a soft smile. "We ran your tests, Ms. Ross." Michael reached for her hand, lacing their fingers. "You're healthy. Everything looks strong." Sophia's brow furrowed. "So what's the result?" Dr. Helene pulled out the ultrasound image and turned it to them. "You're pregnant," she said gently. "With triplets." The room went still. Sophia's lips parted. "Triplets?" Michael blinked. "Are you sure?" "Positive." Sophia laughed, half in shock, half in disbelief. I didn't think this would happen. Not so soon. Not with this." Michael squeezed her hand. "You did it." "No," she whispered, eyes brimming. "We did." They sat on the velvet couch in a silence laced with awe. Michael poured them each a glass of sparkling water. "You don't have to decide anything tonight." "I already have," Sophia said, looking into his eyes. "They're mine. They're ours." He looked at her, more moved than he could show. "You're not alone, Sophia. Not anymore." Sophia leaned into him, head resting on his chest. "I believe you," she whispered. And for the first time since the contract was signed, there was no tension between them, no pretense, only the quiet peace of belonging. Pregnancy had softened the sharp edges of Sophia's world, but peace never lingered long in Crescent City, not when power shifted so easily behind closed doors. As Michael and Sophia prepared for a future they never expected, shadows from the past stirred again. Whispers in the business district, surveillance vehicles parked too long on side streets, phone calls that ended in silence. Lucio Vasari might have lost a pawn in Julian Price, but he had not vanished. And with Sophia carrying the heir to 2 empires, she was no longer just a businesswoman. She had become a target. The office lights flickered as the last of the staff cleared out. Sophia sat at the conference table reviewing expansion proposals. Her hand absent-mindedly cradled her stomach. Michael entered with a file in hand, but his eyes were elsewhere, on her. "You should be resting," he said gently. "I will," she replied, not looking up. "Just finishing this one thing." He sat beside her, his knee brushing hers. Security detail intercepted a car outside the west entrance. No license plates. Driver disappeared before we reached him. Sophia froze. "Is this Lucio again?" Michael hesitated before nodding. "We'll move to the lake house tomorrow," he said, "just until things cool down." Sophia didn't argue. She just exhaled slowly, the weight of danger pressing against the fragile joy she'd been trying to hold on to. Michael reached over and took her hand. "I won't let anything happen to you, or to them." She met his eyes. "I believe you." Nestled miles from Crescent City, the lake estate offered seclusion and silence. Towering pines lined the drive. The water stretched endlessly behind the house, glinting under the afternoon sun. Sophia stepped onto the porch, inhaling the crisp air. It smelled like pine needles, earth, and safety. Inside, Michael watched her through the kitchen window. She looked different here, less guarded, almost weightless. That night, they lit a fire and curled up beneath a single blanket on the living room floor. Sophia's head rested against Michael's chest, their bodies molded to each other. She spoke softly. "I never thought I'd have this." "This?" he asked. She gestured around them. "Safety, peace. Someone who sees me without asking me to be less." Michael's voice was low, his words sincere. You've never had to be less. You just never had someone who knew how to hold all of you." Sophia looked up at him. The firelight danced across his face. "And you think you can?" "I already am," he said. Their lips met again, slow, unhurried. There was no performance, no pressure, only them. The calm broke with the sound of shattering glass. Sophia bolted upright. Michael was already out of bed, gun in hand, eyes sharp. The security alarm wailed. A guard's voice crackled through the intercom. Intruders on the south perimeter, 3 men, armed. Michael spun to Sophia. Closet, now. She didn't argue. She rushed into the walk-in closet where a small reinforced door had been installed. Behind it, a panic room waited. Michael helped her inside. "Stay here. No matter what you hear." "Michael," he kissed her. "Trust me." The door sealed. Sophia heard his footsteps fade down the hall. The sounds that followed chilled her blood. Shouts, gunfire, breaking wood. Her hand clutched her stomach protectively. Time lost meaning inside the vault. Minutes stretched like hours. Her mind raced with images she couldn't control. Then, a voice. Michael Ross's secured, came through the intercom. A new voice. Cold, confident. "We have what we came for." Her heart dropped. She waited, then pressed the emergency alert. A shrill signal transmitted directly to the private security headquarters. By the time backup arrived, the intruders had fled. Blood trailed across the hardwood floors. Bullet holes marred the walls. Sophia emerged from the panic room barefoot and trembling. "Where is he?" she demanded. An agent led her into the master bedroom. Michael lay on the bed, his shirt bloodied, shoulder bandaged. He was awake. Barely. Sophia dropped beside him. "You're here," she whispered, voice breaking. "I told you," he rasped, gripping her hand weakly. "No one touches what's mine." Tears fell freely. "You're bleeding." "Only a scratch." "You liar." Michael grinned through the pain. "Maybe a deep scratch." Sophia pressed her forehead to his. "Don't scare me like that again." "I won't," he promised. "Not if I can help it." They sat there, hands locked, blood on his sleeve and firelight flickering against their skin. And through the storm, Sophia felt something more powerful than fear. She felt the strength of love that had been tested and held. Michael's shoulder had required surgery. The bullet had missed bone but tore through muscle. Now, resting in the VIP recovery wing, he kept his phone beside him, fingers twitching whenever it buzzed. Sophia entered with a wrapped container of soup and a look that said she'd had no sleep. "Doctor said you can go home in 2 days." Michael looked up. "And you?" "I'm staying, as long as it takes." She fed him slowly, each spoonful followed by quiet smiles and teasing remarks. Between bites, he asked, "Do you regret marrying me?" Sophia paused, then leaned in. "No, because marrying you saved more than just the company." He studied her. "What else did it save?" "My heart," she whispered, "and my future. Hello, beautiful souls. I know you are enjoying this story, and I see you smiling, crying, and in deep emotions. Please, in case you haven't subscribed here yet, do well to hit the subscribe button. Have you ever faced real fear with someone by your side, only to realize that's what real love feels like? Share your story in the comments. If this chapter left you breathless, like this video, subscribe to our channel, and let's keep exploring the kind of love that survives fire, bullets, and betrayal. Crisis had a way of clearing the fog. In the days that followed the lake house attack, Sophia never left Michael's side. The man who had once seemed made of numbers and logic now lay bruised, vulnerable, and yet somehow stronger than ever. Each scar he bore reminded her of one truth: he didn't fight for business. He fought for her. The windows were open to the soft chirp of morning. Michael sat upright, arms still in a sling. Sophia, wearing one of his dress shirts like a robe, brought in fresh juice and her favorite novel. "I didn't know you read," Michael teased. "I do," she replied, climbing onto the bed beside him. "Especially to people who get shot in the name of love." He smirked, shaking his head. "Dramatic. You're lucky I'm dramatic." She kissed his cheek before settling beside him, opening the book. Her voice, soft and steady, filled the room. Michael closed his eyes, resting as she read aloud. The words didn't matter. It was the melody of her voice, the warmth of her skin beside his, the calm he hadn't felt in years. They sat outside, wrapped in a blanket, overlooking the distant skyline. Sophia leaned into him as Michael nursed his tea with his good hand. "What happens next?" she asked. "Security will triple. We move you to the main penthouse. I'll cut ties with every middleman who ever dealt with Lucio." Sophia shook her head. "Not the company. Us." Michael turned to her, eyes sharp with clarity. "That depends. Do you still want to do this? Not the alliance, not the appearances. This." She answered by taking his hand and placing it gently on her belly. Their children, rested beneath her heartbeat. "I want to be yours," she whispered. "For real, not just in name." Michael's throat tightened. "Then I'm already yours." He leaned down and kissed her, not with urgency, but with certainty. It was no longer a performance. It was a vow. The ultrasound room was quiet, save for the faint whir of the machine. Sophia lay back, Michael beside her, eyes locked on the screen. The technician smiled. There they are. 3 tiny figures danced across the monitor, clustered like stars. Michael's fingers dug softly into Sophia's palm. "I still can't believe it," she whispered. "Neither can I." The technician turned the volume up. 3 distinct heartbeats echoed in the room. Sophia's eyes welled up. Michael brought her hand to his lips. "We're building a whole new world," he murmured. Back in the boardroom, Sophia was different. No longer the woman chasing justice or fleeing heartbreak. She was calm, unshakable. A future mother and a CEO standing tall in heels and resilience. She addressed the shareholders with grace and resolve. Delgado Tech will no longer negotiate with shadows. Our legacy won't be dictated by fear. It will be built by integrity and protected by truth. Thunderous applause erupted across the room. Michael stood at the back, proud and silent. The woman he'd married for strategy had become the one he loved without limit. Days later, Sophia sat cross-legged in the middle of a sun-drenched room, surrounded by swatches of wallpaper and baby furniture catalogs. Michael entered holding a tray of lemonade. "Don't laugh," he said, "but I actually have opinions about cribs now." She laughed, the sound light and rich. "Who are you? And what did you do with Michael Ross?" He knelt beside her, picking up a paint sample. "I'm the man who's about to be a father to 3 very lucky little humans." Sophia leaned against him. "They're lucky because of you." Michael kissed her temple. "They're lucky because of us." They picked the wallpaper together, neutral tones with soft patterns. As they laughed and debated between rocking chairs and mobiles, Sophia felt it, peace. Not because the threats were gone, but because love had taken root in the middle of the storm. Lying in bed, Sophia's body curled around the soft swell of her stomach. Michael whispered into the darkness. "I wasn't sure I could do this," he said. "Let someone in again. Trust them with everything." She reached for him under the sheets. "You didn't have to be sure. You just had to choose." "I choose you," he said. Every time, every heartbeat. They kissed under the stillness of night. Outside, the city lights blinked faintly in the distance. Inside, there was nothing faint about the way he touched her. They made love slowly, with reverence. Michael worshipped her curves, her breath, her sighs. Sophia guided him with tenderness, gasping as his mouth explored every inch with care. There were no masks between them. Only skin. Only truth. When it ended, they lay together in breathless peace. Sophia, glowing. Michael, healed. For a time, it seemed the storm had passed. But the most dangerous enemies never knock. They slip through cracks, smiling. Lucio Vasari hadn't disappeared. He had been waiting, watching, biding his time. And now, with Michael vulnerable and Sophia preparing for motherhood, he decided to strike one final time. Not with bullets, with contracts, with blackmail, and with betrayal. Michael sat at the head of the table, pale but steady, his shoulders still wrapped beneath his suit. Sophia stood beside him, calm and composed, but her pulse raced beneath the surface. Across from them sat Anton Reyes, Lucio's proxy, a man with an icy smile and a folder thick with leverage. "This," Anton said, sliding the folder forward, "contains proof that Delgado Tech's offshore accounts were accessed through unauthorized protocols." Sophia stiffened. Fabricated. Anton only smiled wider. "Perhaps, but convincing enough for an SEC probe. Unless, of course, we reach a more productive resolution." Michael leaned forward. "What do you want?" Anton tapped the folder. "Ownership. Majority stake in both companies. Or we let the investigation run its course." Sophia met Michael's eyes. A silent conversation passed between them. Then she turned to Anton. "You'll get nothing," she said. Anton smirked. "Then enjoy the fallout." He stood and left the room with the grace of someone convinced he'd already won. Michael exhaled slowly. "It's starting again." "No," Sophia said firmly. "It ends with us." Their legal team gathered. Advisors reviewed every threat. Sophia paced while Michael, still recovering, sketched out timelines and digital forensics. They worked through the night, Sophia leading the charge. Every board member had questions. Some were fearful, others angry. Sophia answered each one with clarity and force. "This company was built with integrity," she declared, "and I will not hand it over to a man who traffics fear for power." Michael watched her from across the room, eyes filled with awe. He had seen power before, but never like this. She wasn't just fighting back, she was leading. Lucio watched the board meeting broadcast from a private feed, eyes narrowing. "She's grown teeth," he muttered. Anton stood beside him. "We underestimated her." Lucio lit a cigar. "Everyone's brave until you take what matters most." His eyes drifted to a photograph on the screen, Sophia, cradling her stomach. Let's see how she fights with a broken heart. Security had been doubled, but someone always knew how to disappear into the system. The black SUV that trailed her for miles remained unnoticed. Until the impact. Sophia's car was forced onto the shoulder, tires screeching, metal crunching. Her driver slammed the brakes. She hit the seat hard, hand clutching her stomach. The door ripped open. Masked men reached in. She screamed once, sharp, primal, but within seconds headlights appeared from the opposite direction. Michael's convoy. Armed guards jumped out, shouting warnings. Gunfire erupted. Sophia's bodyguards shielded her as she was pulled into Michael's car. He was already out, pistol drawn, blood pounding in his ears. Shots flew. The attackers retreated. One man dropped, hit in the leg. The others fled into the night. Michael dropped beside her, searching her face. "Are you hurt?" he demanded. Sophia blinked. I think I'm okay. The babies, we're going to the hospital, now." He scooped her up and carried her into the back seat, voice low but firm. "Drive, fast." Sophia lay hooked to monitors. The doctor's voice was calm but firm. "No internal bleeding, no sign of distress. The triplets are safe. But you'll need bed rest." "Absolute." Michael sat at her side, gripping her hand like a lifeline. "I'm sorry," he whispered. "This is my fault." Sophia shook her head. "This is his fault, and I'm going to end it." Lucio Vasari never saw it coming. A city-wide corporate raid, led by Sophia, sanctioned by the district court, backed by hard evidence, gathered in secret by Michael's cyber team and handed over to federal agents. Hidden shell companies, fraudulent invoices, bribes documented in crystal clarity. Vasari's name was everywhere. When the news broke, he was halfway to his jet. But it was too late. Police surrounded the runway. He was arrested without a shot fired. City billionaire Lucio Vasari has been formally charged with over 20 counts of financial fraud, extortion, and attempted assault. Michael and Sophia watched from their living room. He turned to her. "You did this," he said softly. "No," she replied. "We did." Michael brushed a kiss across her forehead. "And now?" Sophia smiled. "Now we rest, and wait, and love." Time passed, but it didn't dull the fire. It refined it. Weeks became months. Threats faded. Wounds healed. And in the quiet that followed the storm, a miracle unfolded. Sophia stood barefoot in the nursery, one hand on her back, the other resting on her stomach. The morning sun poured through gauzy curtains, warming the pale blue walls decorated with soft golden stars. Cribs stood side by side, 3 of them, each identical, each waiting. She let out a slow breath as Michael entered quietly behind her, his shirt wrinkled from another night of interrupted sleep. "You couldn't rest?" he asked gently. Sophia turned and smiled. "They're moving. A lot, like they know it's almost time." Michael walked over and knelt before her, pressing his ear to her belly. "Hey," he whispered, "take it easy on your mother. She's done enough saving the world this year." Sophia laughed, brushing his hair back. "They like your voice, you know." "I like theirs," he replied, placing his palm across her belly as one tiny kick answered back. The world felt still inside the operating room. Machines beeped. Lights glowed. Sophia lay on the table, calm but bracing herself. Michael stood beside her in surgical scrubs, holding her hand tightly. "Ready?" the doctor asked. Sophia nodded. Michael kissed her forehead. "You're the strongest woman I've ever known." Then, cries. Not one, not two, three. The room filled with life. Michael blinked back tears as the nurses called out, "Baby A, girl. Baby B, boy. Baby C, boy." Each cry sounded like music. Each breath reminded them that love, real love, doesn't just survive battles. It multiplies. Sophia sat propped up in bed, exhausted but radiant. The triplets were wrapped in matching blankets, resting peacefully in her arms. Michael stood near the window, silent for a moment, then turned with glassy eyes. "They're perfect," he said. Sophia looked down at them. "We made them, from the pieces of a broken past." Michael sat beside her, gently cradling their daughter. This is the only legacy I care about." She leaned against him. "And the only empire I want to build." The mansion had changed, not in structure, but in sound. Laughter echoed down the hallways. The scent of baby lotion, warm bread, and fresh coffee filled the air. In the backyard, a birthday picnic was underway. Friends, family, staff who had once feared for their jobs now shared in the joy. Sophia, barefoot in the grass, helped the toddlers chase bubbles. Their daughter, Liana, waddled with determination while her brothers, Caleb and Mateo, tumbled after her, giggling. Michael watched from the porch, a rare grin lighting up his face. "You okay?" Carlos Delgado asked, joining him with 2 drinks. Michael nodded. "Better than okay." Carlos studied his face. "I was wrong about you." Michael glanced over. "About what?" "I thought you were just business. Cold calculation. But I see now. You're exactly what she needed." Michael looked at Sophia and their children. "She saved me. Not the other way around." The twins had fallen asleep side by side. Liana snored gently on Sophia's chest. Michael entered with a blanket and tucked it around her. "You ever think about how we got here?" he asked softly. Sophia nodded. "Every night." He sat beside her. "I remember the first day I saw you, powerful, guarded. I had no idea you'd be the mother of my children, and I had no idea love could look like this," she whispered. Michael kissed her slowly. "It looks like home." They held each other until the moonlight replaced the glow of the crib lamps. "They say love comes when you least expect it. But sometimes love comes when you're at your lowest, when you've lost everything, when trust feels impossible, when your past is still bleeding. That's when the right person walks in, not to fix you, but to remind you you were never broken. You are always whole. You just needed someone who saw it. And now, Sophia Delgado is more than a CEO, more than a survivor. She's a wife, a mother, a woman who chose to love again, and in doing so, built a future stronger than any empire." As for Michael Ross, he stopped running, because for the first time, he had something worth standing still for. Have you ever rebuilt your life after heartbreak and found something better than what you lost? This story wasn't just about betrayal. It was about becoming, about healing, about the beauty of choosing love again, no matter how many times life tried to steal it from you. If Sophia and Michael's story moved you, tell us in the comments what moment touched your heart the most. And don't forget, like this video, if you believe love can grow through pain, share this story with someone who needs a little hope today. Subscribe to Love and Twilights for more soul-deep stories every single week, because somewhere out there, someone still believes in love like this. Maybe it's you. Maybe it starts right now.